Welcome to Borderline Furniture. I'm Mara, and this is project number 41 for the Silver and Gold Challenge hosted by Krystal at the Krafty Creech and Heather at What Heather Did. For this project, I'll be refurbishing this old dresser that I got off of Facebook Marketplace. This dresser is not without its problems. I have a broken foot and a broken drawer, but I think the true story of this dresser is going to be the layers and layers and layers of paint that I'm going to have to remove before I can even get started on doing anything else. As you can see, I'm not getting anywhere with this paint scraper. I switched over to my favorite Eco Stripper, Strip It, but I didn't really have enough for a thick layer on the top, and I could see it wasn't working very well. I counted at least 7 different colors on this dresser, so I knew it was going to take me a while to get it all finished. I finally had to go down to the hardware store and get some quick strips so I could get the party started. It's amazing to me what some people will do to furniture. For instance, this blue and gold looks like it was painted on with finger paint. Oh, hey, look at this. We've got play clothes and shul clothes. Thanks, kids. Well, this just goes to show you that with enough time, effort, and stripper, you can get through 7 layers of paint. So this is my process for fixing damaged veneer. So this damage was probably caused from the wood getting wet. And it seems counterintuitive, but I wet the wood and the wood veneer gets sort of soggy. When that happens, I get the glue underneath it, and then I will put a piece of wax paper over the top of it and then weight it down or clamp it down and just let it dry. Getting the glue underneath the damaged surface of the veneer is probably the hardest part. I've used a glue syringe in the past, but today I just used a brush and a toothpick to try to get that glue up underneath. Then I'll wipe it down and put that wax paper over it and let it dry. So why wax paper, you ask? Well, the glue doesn't stick to wax paper, so it makes the perfect barrier between the clamps and the surface. Both bottom drawers needed to be repaired. I just added the glue to the dovetail joints and clamped them in place, and it worked perfectly. The holes that were left from the previous hardware were so large that I just drilled them out and replaced them with 1/4-inch dowel rod. I'm using the foot on the left side of this dresser to make a mold for the foot on the right side of the dresser, which is broken. This is a 2-part food-safe mold putty that can be purchased at Hobby Lobby. I let this mold set up for a couple of hours, and then I'm just peeling it back. It has a texture that's kind of rubbery. I'm filling the mold with Bondo, and then I'll put it into place and let it sit overnight. Ooh, that Bondo has a very strong chemical odor, so you want to make sure you're doing this outside or in an area with plenty of ventilation. I let this Bondo set up overnight, and then when I removed it, it came out exactly the way I wanted. So happy about that. Well, the nice thing about Bondo is that you can easily smooth it out in case you have some bumps or ridges left. The important thing about sanding Bondo, however, is to make sure that you have a dust mask at a minimum or a respirator. It's probably your best choice. You definitely don't want to breathe that dust. After countless hours of stripping paint and making repairs, this dresser is finally ready for primer. I had this primer left over from a previous project where I was really confused about why they said it was gray when it really looks like it's white. So I'm just going to say it. My favorite primer comes in a spray can and it's called Rust-Oleum. Thanks to Andy's Blue Challenge project number 26, I had a can of Bear chalk paint left over in my paint stash. This color is going to go perfectly with my design. This is Prima Redesign paper, and I've never used anything quite this thick before. I couldn't find very much information on the internet about how to use this or how to rip it. And I understand the edges in some cases have to be torn in order to hide them, but this paper did, or I want to say it's more like fabric, did not rip out very well. So buyer beware. I prefer to use wallpaper paste as a bonding agent for decoupage paper. This paper had a lot of those blue and blue-gray tones that are going to go perfectly with the paint that I used. I let the wallpaper paste dry for several hours, and then I came back to seal the decoupage paper. Because this paper is so thick and I was unsuccessful in fraying the edges, I'm going to stipple a lot of paint over the edges just to camouflage them, and then I'll blend in all that paint. After stippling on the first layer of paint, I had to come back and do several more layers. It's not a one and done process for sure. After the first layer dried, I came back several more times and added layers until I felt like everything came together and the edges were camouflaged so you couldn't see them. I think it came out pretty good and it was super fun. Well, you knew it had to happen. This couldn't be the silver and gold challenge without some silver or gold. I used my silhouette cutter to create a raised stencil for the sides. I painted the raised stencil in gold to make it really pop. And once the gold paint was dry, I burnished it with a soft cloth. This is a hardware jig that marks where the holes are going to be drilled. On the bottom two drawers, I had to countersink the insides to accept the well nuts. And the reason why I'm using well nuts is because the hardware I purchased from Hobby Lobby, and although it is wonderful hardware that goes with this project perfectly, it just wasn't long enough. So the well nuts were inserted into the countersunk part of the hole on the back side of the drawer, and it worked perfectly. This is my favorite part because that means that this project is done. So just a reminder of where we started, and here is the final reveal. number 41, I'd like to thank Krystal at the Krafty Creech and co-host Heather at What Heather Did for this exciting silver and gold challenge. Contributors in this challenge work for your likes and comments, so please check out that playlist, and as always, thanks for watching.